This is Coffee with Timmy. Hello, how are you doing? Welcome back to Coffee with Timmy. Today I want to chat about teenage sex. Specifically, what do you do when you find out your teenager is having sex? When I was growing up, there was a picture you didn't want to imagine. Well, I didn't want to imagine. That is of your parents having sex. You didn't want to think of your parents being sexual in any way. Well, and from where I come from, the generation that I am, there was no obvious physical, touching and all of that going on. So even though obviously they must have been doing something for us children to show up, we still didn't want to have that picture in our mind. Now that I'm an adult, the one picture I don't want to imagine is of a teenage child having sex. And yet we can't get away from this, not today. Teenagers are having sex, but what do you do if you find that your teenager is having sex? I spoke to a number of teens and some moms to get their take on this. First, I have to say that I'm so proud of the moms who are close enough to their kids to be able to have this conversation, and those who are close enough to their teens to know when they become sexually active and have found a way to deal with this information. I don't know what I'll do, honestly. I don't know what I'll do. So before and during COVID, the number of teenagers who were sexually active was actually reducing. But with the closure of schools in lockdown, boredom caused caution to be thrown to the wind, and teenage pregnancy rates shot up in some countries, South Africa included. For a large number of these girls caught in this situation, sadly, this is the end of their education. So, this brings me to the response from mothers who have daughters. There is more anxiety. I say that there is more anxiety with moms who have daughters, more fear of the girls getting pregnant than of the boys having sex, even though they don't agree with it. Because that being said, they do not want their teenagers to engage in sexual activities. In fact, one mom could not find the words to express how sad she was to learn her son was sexually active. All she could say when I asked was, I wish he had waited. I wish he had waited. But we when we're young, we think we know more than our parents. We think they're old, they don't know what's on. But all she could say was, I wish he had waited. Now, another mom who's got both boys and girls says, I remember when I first realized my son I just told him to be mindful of what he's getting up to. But for my daughter, she's not active, she's not sexually active, but I was in her space, telling her to be careful and there's no big deal to it. To which she told me she knows. She doesn't have a boyfriend now, so I'm a bit chilled. But in summary, with the male child, I'm a bit more accepting, but quite anxious with the females. So I don't want early pregnancy to derail their education. I find with teenagers that I spoke with that this being informed comes up in almost all my chats. They believe that with the right information, which they believe that they have, and the maturity, and I put this in quote, this matured, that the mature teenager will know what to do or not to do. So the responses I got seems to deal most with physical aspects of sex and really not the emotions. Let's listen.
Maybe.
Okay.
If performed safely in a safe environment, knowing all the risks. Yes.
You think it's okay? At what age? When we say teenager, 19 is also a teenager, as well as 13.
Okay. I think maybe 18.
You think that's old enough?
I think so. It's 2 years past the age of consent, so I'm assuming you've learned more about the whole topic, and then you should be, as an adult, old enough to make the decision yourself.
I don't think they should.
Why not?
I don't know. I just feel like the risk involved in it at this young age isn't really worth it.
What risk do you think is involved?
They don't really do it safely. So I think eliminating the safety of it, like condoms, protection from sexually transmitted diseases, protection from pregnancy, it's big things that could negatively affect mental health and stuff. So I don't think rush into it yet, you know? Maybe when you're 18, I guess that's still a teenager. But at least you
Yes,
can
18 is still a teenager. 19 is also a teenager.
Yeah, those teenagers, I think you're okay doing it then. But if you're 14, 15, 16, I think you shouldn't rush into it.
So you think it's fine when you're in your late teens?
Yeah.
You don't think all these other things matter then? The safety of it?
Yeah, they still do matter, but I think you're in a more responsible state of mind to cater to them and take responsibility for them.
Now, one thing I have to say, mothers can be surprising. When I was younger, there were things I felt I couldn't take to my mom, only to find out later, years, in having casual conversations with her about whatever it is, and her response to that particular situation was far from my expectation. She just wouldn't have reacted the way I thought. But again, young people underestimate their parents. It's this notion that they are old, they simply can't understand. They don't understand the pressures of being young. They don't even know what it is like to be young in these times, which I'm sure was my feeling at that time as well, because my parents obviously could not understand because the world was different when they were young. But the world has changed, just not so much. More responses from parents, from moms. One says, I will be shocked. And after gathering my emotions, I would ask to talk to her about it. Okay, so she's got daughters. The talk will be to get to understand the circumstances related to the sexual experience, bearing in mind that she is underage. This is something that I found, that teenage sex, even though the teens that I spoke with all thought, you had to be an older teen, but you actually have a lot of young girls and young boys who are sexually active, and even much more so than the older ones, because I find that the older ones who have decided to wait, they've already decided to wait. They're not in a hurry. And from something one of the older teens I spoke with said that once they've started, once whoever it is have started, what's the need? Where is the need to stop? They just go on and on. It's really disturbing. It's really disturbing. I think that's what, or concerning, maybe concerning. So another mom says she's also got a boy and a girl. And she says, if it is a young teen, say 12 to 15, I'll be very concerned that she's seeking love in the wrong places. And I'll make a concentrated effort to fill her love tank. Spend effort in boosting her self-esteem and making her understand the repercussions of her choices. An older teen, I'll make sure they understand the emotional and spiritual aspect of sex and how to be safe. I wouldn't encourage sex, but I also won't judge them or make them feel bad, as our relationship is more important. This again tells me that we underestimate our parents, especially the moms. We underestimate them. And even when they are fighting with the children, it's mostly out of love and because they do know better. But the young ones don't see that. And one mom surprised me with this, or maybe I shouldn't say I'm surprised, because like I said, I don't know how I would react. She says, I would not know how to react. Probably the feeling that I will have is that I have failed as a mother. One of the questions I will ask myself is, what could I have done better? Isn't that just like women? Or like a parent, just to blame ourselves on a decision that we couldn't make? So I'm going to say now, what you parent, you can build the foundation, give the instructions, and you pray your child follows. Because guess what? We can't be with them 24/7. The things I spoke to mostly see, like I said, 18 to 19 as an appropriate age to have sex. There is talk of maturity levels without, from what I gather, a clear explanation of what this means. Let's listen.
Don't think, like at a certain age, I just don't think you're at that maturity level to make like a decision like that so young. Even 18 is still quite young, I think.
Okay. Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah. I think also, I think there's no need to like rush into like things like that. Like you have so much life ahead of you, to do things like that.
Okay.
And doing it at a young age can be risky because there's so many like STDs and stuff and just sexually transmitted diseases that you're not ready to take the responsibility of or handle yourself yet. And it's just not worth, I don't know, risking it at such a young age. And other teenagers at such a young age don't know how to get tested, don't know how to check if they have it. And you guys just do things unprotected without proper knowledge on how to do them. And it's just not safe.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Personally, I think not so much that it's like old enough or whatever, but like if you're doing it, I don't see a problem.
Yeah. Because at that point, I just think you're ready to, I don't know, take some sort of responsibility for it. At least you're an adult.
But I think people overestimate like the maturity level of people who come out of high school. You've just finished high school. You're starting your first year at university. Are you really that developed yet?
No, yeah, definitely. You shouldn't just like jump into it. Like you shouldn't be openly now looking to have sex. But I mean, if you think you're mentally ready for it at that age, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Especially if you're also going to be safe.
Yeah. Because like you said, at that age, I know you're not always super mature, but at least if you finished high school, you know about your protection and stuff.
You would hope so.
Yeah. The gentlemen's finishing high school, they know about STDs, pregnancy, and all of that. You would hope they know that.
Yes, there's a hope.
Yeah.
So what do you mean when you say emotionally ready? What does that mean?
I think it's
I think being emotionally ready correlates with your partner and the confidence you have in each other. Because I don't think you should just jump into sex with someone you've known for a week. Whereas if you're doing it with a partner that you've been together for a year, I mean, obviously you've established communication, there's confidence in the relationship.
I've got a friend that she's almost 18 now, and her and the boyfriend, it's like a normal thing that they do and things like that. But where they are, like with each other, like for him, I feel like he just wants to do it, for himself.
Yeah.
And with her, it's like she feels like there's actually like something like like they're literally about to get married and things like that. And it's like the way he treats her doesn't reflect that like what she thinks. So it's like it's like I don't know.
Yeah.
But some teens, I notice also, are very clear where they stand on teenage sex.
No, I don't think so, no.
Why not?
As a Christian, I feel like you should save yourself for marriage. But for those who are not Christians, I feel like, I don't know, it's just best to abstain to avoid, certain problems,
Why? Why do you think it's best to abstain?
You could get pregnant, get STDs. It's just too much out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Responsible, you can know yourself a bit more. Because when you're young, you don't really know exactly what you want. You're not really thinking things through as much, so you could make mistakes. And your body's not really ready for such a big leap or gap.
So you think an 18, 19-year-old is old enough to make that decision?
Well, I mean,
Depends on their maturity level.
yeah,
Of the boy or of the girl?
Both.
either.
Both are really.
Yeah. I think they could be if they know themselves. Some people aren't ready. Some people feel they're ready at younger ages. But I think if they know themselves.
How do you think this applies if you're a Christian?
I know a lot of Christians would wait until marriage. So then
What do you mean?
they wait until they're married before they lose their virginity.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And often they could get married young and then they would be 18 or 19, or they could be married when they're 30, 25, like around there. So I think if that's where their beliefs are, and then they'll wait until.
So you think if it's a Christian teen, then the rules are different?
Or not that their rules are different, but if they believe to wait until they're
You look at it in a different perspective.
if their beliefs are that they should wait until they're married, then they can have sex when they're younger, but then they would get married younger. So they might get married around 18 or 19 or 20.
So you think some teenagers or young people get married so that they will have sex without sinning? Let me put it that way. If their belief is that you don't have sex before marriage, but now they want to, so they rather marry, and well, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, too bad.
I mean, maybe. Or they would, if they're really waiting until marriage, they might. Otherwise, they would. I think it's whenever the person's ready and when they know they're emotionally ready. But then it's also quite a big thing to happen. Yeah, quite a big step. And the connection they have with the other person, you want to be old enough to know that it's right.
You think an 18 or 19-year-old is old enough? They think they know what they're doing.
If they have the right education on it, probably. And they have the right education on it.
What kind of education? What do you think is the most, the thing that teenagers fear most when it comes to having sex?
Getting pregnant.
Getting pregnant.
Diseases.
Or regretting
STDs spreading.
But what do you think is the highest fear that they have?
Probably getting pregnant.
Getting pregnant.
Yeah.
So if that was not part of it, if they could say, okay, I'm not going to get pregnant, I know what to do, for example.
Like, I know some people who have had sex quite young, and they thought that they were ready for it. But I know in where I am, I'm not ready for it. So I think even if I knew I wasn't going to get pregnant, I wouldn't, because I don't feel ready for it, emotionally or physically.
Okay.
So I think it just depends on
On the person. Okay, without naming names, so the person that you know had sex when they thought they were ready, so they did it when they were younger, do they still feel they are ready? Or do they think they've made a mistake?
I think so. Like, they haven't said anything that's they regret it. They don't really act like they regret it. They're Christian too. So I don't think they didn't really wait fully until they're married.
I see. Do you think there's pressure for young people to have sex?
I think sometimes if you're with the wrong partner, there can be a lot of pressure, and they
Or
can
in the wrong environment.
or the wrong environment. If you're around other people your age who are having sex, that might put pressure on you.
Okay.
So you can relate to them more. Or if your partner wants to do that and wants to have sex, then I think there would be a bit more pressure.
Is there more pressure on girls or on boys?
I think boys want, and they
Both genders really receive
Yeah.
the same amount of pressure. Of course, a lot of people would agree that girls receive more because of getting pregnant and everything, but guys also, they could maybe want it to feel like in a position of power.
like, I know a lot of guys would want to have sex, and they put a lot of pressure on other people to have sex with them.
Okay.
So I think the pressure would be more onto boys, who then put it onto girls. But then there's obviously like society and stuff
Okay.
that will also put pressure on people
Okay.
of all genders.
Okay. I was really looking at, do boys pressure other boys, or pressure as in, all my friends are doing, I mean, from the boys' angle, all my friends are doing it, so maybe I need to do something, or
Yeah, for your friends doing it, it depends on if they're putting that on you
okay.
and your mindset on that. And then for the boys, often it can get quite, not competitive, but yeah, there is quite a lot of, I think, like pressure, I guess, going on between boys. That, oh, I've done this, have you? Oh, you've done this. Oh, I'm going to try and do that so I can,
They should, but if they do, it's not a problem. Like, if they do it correctly, if if they condomize, if they take the necessary precautions, then what's the problem? But if you're just like going boom, boom, you, and you just leave, that's a problem.
That's
for a teenager.
And you are under the risk of getting those.
If you start from young, you can like really just carry it on to the future, like that habit. I don't know. Everyone's different, but then that's just me. Like, if you start from there, you can just keep. I don't know.
I think that with your argument about the whole school thing, I think we are at an age where you obviously start having sexual urges and you're developing like sexually, and I don't find it a problem when teenagers want to explore that side of them, because I feel like when you tell them not to, you're creating a culture of shame around having sex, which does carry on to adulthood, where women or even some men are even afraid to talk about like STIs that they have, or thrush, which is a common thing that women have, because there's just that culture of shame. So if they want to, they should.
The most shocking for me is the statement that sex is a social event. The casualness, is that a word? The casual, almost insignificant way that sex is included and is accepted as part of socializing is shocking to me. So maybe my age is showing. But to think that we go for a bite at McDonald's or we grab a pizza and then we jump into bed without blinking. This is not even less Netflix and chill. This is just, we go out and we come back and we know what is going to happen. And both male and female actually confirm that, you know what is going to happen when you come back. So it's not a question of how old we older ones say, do you want to come up for coffee? No, we just know where we're going after that. And it seems encouraging abstinence is seen as sex shaming. Sex shaming, this is a new one, I'd never heard it.
Social lives, and sex is a social aspect of people's life.
One unintended outcome from the American court decision on abortion is the number of male teens, American teenagers I'm talking about now, who are now decided to abstain from sex, because what had been seen as a last resort, which is the abortion as an option way out if it results from sex, has now been taken out, is off the table. So, what can a parent do when you find out your teenager is sexually active? I'm going to close with the advice from my mom. She says, I'll be disappointed, but I wouldn't let my child know I'm disappointed. I will sit down with him or her to understand why she or he feels the need to be sexually active at such a young age. I'll have a conversation with them just to understand where their heads are. Then speak to them about the effects of sex outside marriage from a spiritual, physical, and emotional point of view. I will then see if I can put some sort of accountability system in place to stop the sex from continuing and to deal with the temptation. Bravo, bravo, bravo. Moms, you are just too much. You are just too much. So, what will you do if you find out your teen is sexually active? It's been Coffee with Timmy. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.